Today, many of the once bustling factories in Madison, Wisconsin now lay empty or are being converted into apartments and storefronts. But they were once full of sound as the clanging of machinery and the shouts of workers filled the large spaces.
The three major industries in Wisconsin during the mid-20th century were agriculture, papermaking, and defense. And increasingly, following World War I and into World War II, defense becomes the major industry.
During this time, factory employees had few options when they were injured on the job. They could try and sue their employer, but not many were successful. Factories had little incentive to keep their employees safe.
Workers often lost limbs, hearing, their sight. Sometimes they fell into big vats. There were unions, which was helpful, and also mutual aid societies and ethnic organizations where people would collectively organize to make their workplaces safer. But there weren't any sort of protections if somebody got hurt on the job or if a family member lost a loved one in a factory. Without workers organizing and without legislation, workers could end up being in such trouble and then not have any compensation for their time off.
In 1911, Wisconsin passed the nation's first Workers' Compensation Act. This law protected both workers and employers. Workers now had a reliable avenue through which to seek compensation for workplace injury, and employers had a simple way to manage workers seeking compensation without resorting to costly legal battles.
The 1911 law was really an important step for labor legislation in Wisconsin, and it also sent a message to the rest of the country. In fact, by 1949, all 50 states had workers' compensation laws.
The implementation of this act created a need for employers to have tools and systems in place to keep track of and measure workers' injuries. The Employers Mutual Liability Insurance Company of Wisconsin responded to this need. Employers Mutual was founded in Wausau, Wisconsin in 1911. They provided a variety of services around the concept of workplace safety and had a financial incentive to keep workplaces safe.
What happens is that industrialists and employers start to develop technologies to help protect workers. They do a lot of different testing. They bring in experts, hearing experts, vision experts, experts on how people should stand during certain repetitive tasks.
One of these tools was the audiometer. The audiometer is a device that measures the level of hearing loss an individual has sustained by emitting a series of noises designed to test the limits of a person's hearing. If the subject cannot hear tones above a certain frequency, that indicates that they've experienced some sort of hearing loss. This information gathered by the audiometer was then used to provide evidence of a worker's need for compensation, as well as a need for greater standards of safety in the workplace. This particular audiometer was used in the 1960s by an occupational health consultant named Helen Onyet to measure workers' hearing loss in a variety of workplaces across the Midwest.
And so the 1960s and all the other civil rights movements that are coming about during that time are really interconnected, and they're interconnected at a root cause, which is workplace injustice. Wisconsin has always been a leader in progressive labor legislation due to its very militant labor force. Laws passed on labor legislation in the 1960s are very important, and we do see their long-lasting effects today because they are what allow workers to continue to have an ability to make claims under workmen's compensation law and to feel safe on their jobs. Safety measures are expensive, and employers want to make profits. And so profits are sort of in opposition sometimes to the things that keep workers safe.
Legislation protecting workers' compensation and workplace safety continue to be contentious today. Even now, tens of millions of workers in the United States are exposed to dangerously high decibels of sound at work, and tens of thousands experience hearing loss. Updated versions of the audiometer are still used to measure hearing and calibrate insurance and workers' comp.
It's this constant battle between industrialists and their employees over workplace conditions and over control over people's health.
Wisconsin's role as an early leader in workers' rights and workplace safety was a precursor to such national organizations as the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which continues to protect American workers today.